Alright, let's try this again. In the last episode of Indie Talk, we were discussing how Clair, Obscur, Expedition 33, and Sandfall was disqualified from nominations of Game of the Year when it came to the Indie Game Awards. In that video, I was very unprofessional and I did not do my due diligence in giving all the context, clues, and information thereof. And due to that fact, I have to apologize for how unprofessional I came off with that. I was running on in terms of a ranty kind of way without giving too much information in context as to what I was talking about, so we're going to try this again. As you may know, Sandfall Interactive, the developers of Expedition 33, were disqualified from Game of the Year by the Indie Game Awards. The IGA, or the Indie Game Awards, justified this disqualification due to an article popping up. This article was an interview between a Spanish news outlet and Sandfall representative who spoke on the development of Expedition 33. In particular, they were asked about their use of Gen AI, which is what caught the eyes of the IGA, and thus disqualifying Expedition 33 due to the fact that they used Gen AI to develop their game. However, I am going to explain why this justification is not really justified. I will, however, acknowledge that in their criteria in the FAQ for the Indie Game Awards, they have explicitly said that games developed using generative AI are strictly ineligible for nomination. And this time, I'm not going to talk about the use of Gen AI and how it could help indie developers. I'm going to sit here and tell you guys that Sandfall didn't use Gen AI. So let's take a look at this statement here by Sandfall Interactive talking about that Spanish article. They talked about how there were some people in their team that experimented with Gen AI. However, they never said that they used Gen AI to develop Expedition 33. What they did with Gen AI back in 2022 will never be known unless they explain it, but from what they have given us in terms of detail, there was no development using Gen AI as a tool to develop their game. And you're about to ask, well, what about the art assets that was found in the game? Those are not Gen AI art assets. Instead, they are actually Unreal Engine placeholder art. During QA testing, they must have left that behind. It was a mistake, an honest mistake, and they patched that out 5 days after the release of the game. So not only was Gen AI not used to develop Expedition 33, but the art assets were also not Gen AI developed. So in all cases, they shouldn't have been disqualified, and I think the Indie Game Awards are doing a little too much here. They have an explicit rule that says that the game developed using Gen AI is restricted. Now, the game itself was not developed using Gen AI. That has been told from the mouths of those who are representing Sandfall Interactive. But I don't know if IGA is going to uphold any kind of apology or reestablish this nomination due to the fact that they have a very strict mindset. And you thought I was going to say rules? No. This is a different kind of mindset. They have a certain ideal. When you look at the nominated categories, you could see that they have a sort of kind of pandering, kind of virtue signaling kind of feel. Not too long ago, they had nominations for the best African indie game with right there in the center, Finding Father. And as I said in my last video, I do feel some kind of way about this, seeing how that's next to Get the Milk, which is over I Kill Ya, which is across from Stick It to the Stick Man. What's actually happening here isn't really the justification of using Gen AI, so they're following their own rules. This is more or less kind of a, I'm going to strike you because you're using something that we over here on this side do not like. Sandfall touched Gen AI. Some other people touched it, but did they use it to develop the game? Well, from what it looks like, no. So when a representative was asked if they used Gen AI in their game, they weren't lying. Well, as far as we know, right? What I think the IGA did was look at the surface information on that article and took generative AI as a means of, oh yeah, they use it for development. But that can't be farther from the truth. We're looking at Clair, Obscur, Expedition 33, they came up to you, they said they weren't using Gen AI, and when they did find assets that was in there, those were placeholders from Unreal Engine. So in every case of the word, they should get their Game of the Year back. But I don't think Sandfall should care about any of this. I don't think they should care about the awards that they were getting from the IGA. They were sweeping at the Game Awards, and even though we probably don't care about that, they still have the heart of the fans. It's still a good game. And to be honest, with the IGA disqualifying Expedition 33 off of some little misunderstanding, because this was entirely a misunderstanding, I'm willing to bet that they're going to keep this disqualification up due to the fact that they even experimented with Gen AI. Gen AI being the boogeyman when it comes to the workplace, where a lot of people are losing their jobs due to stupid people at top thinking that AI can replace a human. And yes, I do think it's stupid. It's dumb for anybody's job to be replaced with AI. And I will back anybody up who got fired due to the fact that they were replaced by AI. But there are a lot of people coming out of the woodworks who are taking this opportunity to besmirch the name of Sandfall and Clair Obscur Expedition 33, justifying their tantrums on social media, saying how dare they, using Gen AI, do you not know that people's jobs are being lost because of this? Where in my opinion, Sandfall Interactive was using Gen AI in the best way you could possibly think, as a tool. And whether if you like it or not, Gen AI is basically here to stay, and it's going to evolve, which is the reason why nobody can buy memory at a stable price anymore. Just because there are so many businesses and high-tech companies out there that are trying to utilize AI to cheapen the price and cost of whatever they're developing, and this ramification has cost a lot of people's jobs. In fact, with one of the jobs that I was laid off from, I heard that 10 more people were laid off just recently due to AI. And this is going to be a continuing trend until it kind of balances out, until AI can be used in conjunction with humans as a tool, as it should be proper. So I just wanted to add this in here for people who are questioning my use of AI by indie developers. As far as I could tell, AI can help with logistics, and we all know people don't want to mess with numbers all too much. It's kind of boring. And that's just one thing. You can also use them for references if you're an artist, not use the art that it produces. It's taking references from the internet, and it could be copywritten, but you can use it as a reference. And I've seen people use AI to correct and edit their voices, whether they're singing or doing some voice acting. They use AI for range and being able to edit to see if their voice can be better or toned down, something to that nature. But I am also in full support for those who don't want to use AI, because big industries and businesses and companies and the guys upstairs have no idea that AI is not a replacement for humans. So please don't misinterpret when I say that indie developers should be using and can be using AI to help them with the development of their game. I mean to say, as long as they are being used as a tool and not a full-on replacement for something, yeah, I can approve of that. At least that's what I hope. I'm trying to look on the brighter side of things instead of being a negative Nancy like everybody else. But if we look at the game that is in front of us, Expedition 33, there is no doubt that this is a fantastic game. And no, I won't try to justify generative AI being used. I will say that it will be used by indie developers. Reason for it, it eases up a lot of development time, whatever it may be. It's going to be used as a tool, hopefully. It is still very possible. Yes, it is still very possible that those indie developers are going to use it in the way that a lot of big companies are going to use it, replacing voice actors, music, and art. But if you use it as the tool as it is, it can help indie developers finish their game a bit faster. Now, like I said before, I'm not trying to put Gen AI on a pedestal. I'm just telling you how it is and what's going to happen in the future. This is something that I think IGA also knows, but they're not setting a good precedence for other indie developers out there. And what I mean by that, I mean they're discouraging the use of Gen AI, but they're not discouraging the use of Gen AI in a specific way. They just don't want anybody using it whatsoever. And okay, that is their opinion, and that's perfectly fine. But when it comes to new technology, I think it needs to be more experimented with. Some sort of evolution needs to happen, some changes or upgrades, or else people are going to be afraid of Gen AI and it's not going to go anywhere. And when I say it's not going to go anywhere, I mean it's still going to be used to steal art, it's going to take references online, and it's going to have copyright work placed in certain products, and people are going to get pissed. The only thing that you can do with technology like this is to experiment with it and try to figure out if it's useful to you. Thus, what some of the employees in Sandfall did, they experimented and they figured maybe it just won't work for the game that they're trying to develop. And to be fair, when we're looking at the people behind this game, you're looking at ex-Ubisoft employees and others who have never made a game in their life. A lot of the people who helped develop Expedition 33 have never made a game, ever. This is their first one, which is probably the reason why they did experiment with Gen AI, to see if they can get a reference to take with them in order to develop this game. However, I will say, due to the fact there are a lot of companies out there that are using Gen AI in the wrong way, in a way that is really harming people, and yes, there's that whole harming an environment, and well, that's neither here nor there, but there are people within these companies who think that they can use Gen AI to just replace humans. That's just wrong. And I can understand why IGA is very against Gen AI. I can fully understand them. But in this case, I don't think IGA was right in this matter. They did not use Gen AI to develop Expedition 33. They experimented with it, but they did not use it for development, as far as we know. And to all the people who said that they lied, and just because some of their people in their team use Gen AI, which that's justified apparently for their disqualification, well, they're wrong. If you take a look at the clarification from a Sandfall representative, they clarified by saying that they experimented with it, with no development on the game whatsoever. And again, it was Unreal Engine assets, not Gen AI assets. But seeing how they experimented and touched Gen AI, do you really think that it's justified to be besmirched and ridiculed? That's a question I'm going to have to give you guys. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think all of this was justified? Is IGA justified due to the use of Gen AI, seeing how, as far as we know, there was no Gen AI used to develop Expedition 33? As far as Sandfall is guilty of, they had a few people who experimented with it. Thanks for watching. Again, I do apologize for the last video. That one was very unprofessional. But if you like what you saw today, please subscribe. It would really help this channel. But in the meantime, I'm going to finally start that game of the year, since it's in my PS5 and it's been there since the very beginning. See you guys next time in Indie Talk, and have a good one. Bye-bye.